We'll start with, what is your full name?
Clarence Edward Paugh, Jr.
P-A-U-G-H?
P-A-U-G-H.
All right. What name are you usually called?
I have a nickname. They call me Shaky.
Okay. Is there a story behind that name?
Yeah, my father had that as a nickname.
Really?
Yeah.
So you just
So I
inherited
picked it up. The whole family did.
the nickname?
Yeah.
Okay, so like while you were a little boy growing up and he's the dad, I mean, did they call you Little Shaky? Or
That's exactly what they called me, Little Shake.
Little, okay.
In fact, they called all of the kids. I have two sisters. And they call us all Shake. And they used to call down home, and when Mother would answer the phone, they'd say, Shake home. And she'd say, male or female, young or old.
Shake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they call me Shaky, S-H-A-K-E-Y.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
Right here in Grafton.
Okay. What is your birth date?
August the 1st, 1927.
Oh, how old are you?
Well, I'll be
I could calculate that.
74.
Good for you.
Yeah?
Did you marry?
Yes.
What is your spouse's name?
Janet
What was her maiden name?
Thayer.
Okay. Where's she from?
Originally, the family was from here, but they moved to Fairmont.
Okay.
And she moved back here from Fairmont. That's when I met her.
Okay. Did you have children?
Yes, 2.
All right. Anything in particular you'd like to mention about your children?
Yeah,
or
they're
your
the
wife?
greatest thing going. You know, they're great. You got a boy and a girl. And
Good.
my daughter lives out here on Wickwire. They have a farm out there. Have 2 farms, in fact.
How do you spell that?
Wickwire, I don't know, I got W-I-K-E-W-I-R-E or something like
And
that.
that's in Taylor County as well.
Oh, it's right out here.
Okay. What's your daughter's name?
Julie.
Okay.
Julie. She married Peters. She married Roger Peters, and they have 2 children,
Okay.
boy and a girl.
Okay, great. How about your son?
My son just had a daughter in November,
Okay.
and so she's going on, 6.5 months now.
Okay.
And he's Mr. Mom.
Okay.
He really is.
Good for him. Now, is he in this area also?
No, he lives in Martinsburg and works in Charlestown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you know who the first members of your family were to come to Taylor County?
Well, it would probably be my grandparents.
Okay, do you know what brought them to Grafton?
The railroad.
Railroad.
Yeah. He was an engineer on the railroad. His name was Wilbur.
Okay.
Wilbur Paugh.
Okay. Now, was the B&O in existence at that time?
Oh, yes.
He was here then with the B&O?
Yes.
Okay. So where did they come from? Do you know?
Over in the mountains. You know, they were mountain people over there, and they actually had a home down on Cheat River. And my grandmother's name was Sadie Lawrence, and she was from over in that area.
Now, when you say the mountains, we're still talking within West Virginia?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Over in Cheat Mountain and
Okay.
Cheat River over there, you know. It's
Okay. Like over in Mon County or...
No, you go down Route 50 and go over the mountains and go down into, well, it's,
What's it close to?
oh gosh, been so long since I've been down there. Well, there's Cheat Bridge down there, and it used to be Dawson's Camp. And Aurora, it's this side of Aurora.
Aurora. Is that over toward Bayard?
Yeah, Aurora's up on the mountain.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Over toward Canaan Valley. Over
Well,
sort of.
yeah, Canane's
that
to the
direction.
right, but it's over there, yeah.
Okay, okay. Did you attend school in Taylor County?
Yes, I did.
Okay, where did you go?
Well, I first of all, went to, Central School.
Okay.
And then I went to Fetterman
Okay.
grade school, and then I went to junior high school, which is up on Washington Street. They don't use it any longer.
Okay.
And then I went to high school, over to Grafton High School.
Okay, all right. Have you ever served in public office here, like mayor or sheriff or councilman or any of those things?
I've been on the civil service boards here in the county for years. I used to be on the Fire Civil Service Board and the Sheriff's Civil Service Board, and I also served, Arch Moore put me on the State Civil Service Board.
Okay.
And, of course, politics changed. I was there a while. And now I'm the chairman of the Republican Party here in Taylor County.
Okay. Now, back when Archmore, what years was that? What time frame?
Oh, gosh, I can't even remember.
60s?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You would have lived here during the Depression?
Yes.
Do you remember anything about it?
Sure do. Yes, indeed.
Did you get through it okay?
Got through it all right. Yeah, there were 3 families lived in one house up at 113 Grand Street. It was my grandfather's home. And, yeah, we came through it. Yeah. In fact, the West Side, I went over to West Side School, too.
So 3 families lived in the house at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. With their children.
Okay.
And, you know. Then we finally bought a home down in Fetterman up on Francis Street.
Okay.
And we moved down there. There was a 1 bedroom, 1 front room, 1 kitchen, and a little pantry and a bathroom. And that was it.
How many people?
5.
Okay. Well,
5 of us.
What do you remember about the Depression?
Well, you know, we didn't starve, but, you know, hamburger gravy on toast was usually a good meal. And
It's still a good meal.
oh, sure, but, you know, it wasn't plentiful, and my grandmother lived over town down next to where the Manus Theater is now. Mm-hmm. And I can remember going there, and we would have, they called it chop suey, and they would make it from scratch. But and my job in the family was cutting out the cardboard, putting in the shoes before we went to school every day. Because we all had holes in our shoes, you know.
Oh, so you actually put cardboard in
Oh,
and
sure.
left it?
Yeah.
Okay, because when you first mentioned cardboard, I thought to keep them in shape or something.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and, you know, it was tough, and we finally moved down to Fetterman. And in fact, my dad, my sister, Joanne, was born out in Ohio. He went out there and drove bus for a while because there was no work here. Mm-hmm. And, of course, then I came after her, and I was born here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born at 113 Grand Street, yeah, right in the house.
Okay. Is the house still down there?
No, the house has been torn down.
Okay.
Everybody left, and they finally had to dilapidate it, and we got rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Were you ever in the military?
Yes.
World War II?
World War II.
Which branch?
Navy.
Navy man. When did you serve?
Went in 44, come out in 46.
Okay, you were in there 2 years.
Yeah.
Where did you receive your basic training?
Went to Great Lakes for, it was hardly any time at all. And then went to the West Coast and got aboard an APA transport. Went down to Australia, never stopped, and came up that way into, and found my ship, which was a destroyer. I was on a destroyer in World War II.
Okay. Where were you though? Like, I know.
Philippines.
Okay, in the Philippines. Okay.
Philippines.
Let me back up just a minute here.
Sure.
How did you get to? Okay, you said your basic was in Great Lakes. Mm-hmm. Did you travel there though by railroad?
When we left here, yes.
Yeah, when you left
yes.
Grafton.
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any memories of the train ride going there?
Oh yeah, I was 17,
okay.
And when we went up there, and of course there was a group of us. They all came from Clarksburg and Fairmont, and we all got on the train and rode to Great Lakes, and of course, you know, being a kid, and that's what I was a kid, and it was all fun and games to us at that time.
Well, you're young.
Oh,
you don't
sure.
realize the seriousness of
Mm-hmm.
what you're headed for.
Right.
Do you remember anything like, I don't know, food on the train or anything?
Well, I can remember we had a tough time getting something to drink. You know, we was all at the water cooler, or But we were looking for different things, pop and coffee and that kind of stuff. But those trains were just, it was just like a troop train, and they just took you right there.
Okay.
But yeah, I remembered.
Yeah.
Sure do.
So you had you got on the train here in Grafton, and did it take you all the way to Great Lakes?
Yep, sure did.
Same train?
Yep.
You didn't have to get off of it, or?
Oh, I think we changed trains a couple of times,
Okay.
but I don't know. You know, that I don't remember that. But
Now, that probably would have taken a couple days, wouldn't it?
yeah, it did. I think it did take a couple of days to get up the lakes. Oops.
That's fine. We'll just stop it for a minute.
Okay.
I do. Let me turn this on again, and here we go. We'll roll them again.
Okay.
Okay, we were talking about your train ride, and do you remember the particular day you left? What was it like when you left home? I know you said you were a kid.
Oh, who would remember that? You know.
Were you excited?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a great thing.
Did you have some buddies? I know you said it was like a troop train, but did you have buddies?
Well, we made buddies aboard the train. You know,
Okay.
we had a good time that way.
Okay. So your first assignment would have been in the Philippines?
Yes.
Were you there the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. What was that like? What?
Well, when I can remember that we stopped at one of the islands. I don't recall which one, but I remember when you wanted a rating in the service, they called it, you would strike for that rating. That's what they called it. And I went in for like a fire controlman, and a lot of people thought that was like a fireman, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
Fire controlman worked the big computers and the big guns, from the main battery director down to the heart of the ship. And they controlled the big guns on board the ship. And
Okay. So that's what you did.
that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was the name of your ship?
The Cony, C-O-N-Y,
Okay.
and it was DD 508.
What does that mean?
That was the number of the ship. That was on the bow of the ship, the number. And I got aboard that, stayed aboard it the whole war, and went through everything with them. But I remember when I left the island, there was a guy here by the name of Arlie House that he got sick the first day we got aboard the ship in San Francisco, and he was sick for 31 days. And I remember I took him up between the stacks with his mattress.
Okay.
He couldn't sleep below decks, and I would try to carry him food, but he must have lost 15 pounds gone over, but anyhow, he got on the island we stopped on the island, and he took what they call ship's company. He stayed on the island.
Okay.
But he brought me a year's supply of his chocolate because he knew I was moving on. And I actually left that island and got aboard a net tender. And they went up through a place they called the Slot. Mm-hmm. Well, the Slot was owned by the Japanese, and they would let a net tender through because it was a fishing boat. Mm-hmm. And the captain of that net tender put me up in the boom. The boom was huge, and there was holes in the boom, and I was put in the boom. And he said, don't you even look out, because he said we're not allowed to have any passengers. And so I sat there for a day and a half and went up through what we called the Slot and went up to a bay, and there sat my destroyer. And they took me over in a small boat, and there was a net hanging down over the side of the ship. And I climbed that net with the sea bag. And when I remember got to the top of the net, two big old clammy hands came across and picked me and the sea bag up, and it was a guy by the name of Bart Tukowski. And he looked at me and he said, my God, where are they going to send us next? Because I was just a little fella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my. You would have only been 17.
Oh, yeah. And he took me down to my bunk. We immediately got underway.
Okay.
And he took me down to my bunk, and he, of course, they had a little something to drink. And he said, I'll stand your next watch. I'll get you up when you're ready. And I slept for a day.
Yeah.
And he became a very good friend. Lost him, aboard ship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I lost it.
Okay. So one of my questions was, what are some of the people's names that you remember? So it sounds like you made some friends while you were in there.
Oh, sure.
Did you make some friends that maybe you kept in contact with once you...
Well, that didn't really happen with a lot of us. When we were finally known to be, we were going to be mustered out, you know, and of course, I got out of the service on what they call the points system.
Okay.
I immediately went overseas and stayed overseas, so that you got extra points for that. So when the war was over, I had plenty of points to get out, and you know, you really wanted to come home.
Okay. So when you say on the point system, were you had to have so many points to get out?
Yes, it wasn't. It wasn't a lengthy service. It, you know.
Oh, okay. So by you going overseas and staying for that extended period of time, it was worth more points.
Oh yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So you, you know, you acquired these points, and I didn't know anything about it until practically the day before I was going to be mustered out. But.
Oh, okay. Now, is that something you choose when you go in? You can choose to go on a point system?
No.
And you choose to go on 2 years? It's on points.
Yeah, what it is, well, during the war you just went in.
Okay.
Now you go in for a set amount of time. It may be 2 years, 4 years, or whatever. But when you're in World War II, we just went in the service, signed up, and went into the service. And yeah.
Okay. Were you ever wounded?
Got my nose busted, you know, overseas. But,
what happened?
Well, a bomb exploded, and they set me against the bulkhead and split my nose. And,
ooh.
Yeah.
Well, your nose looks fine.
Yeah.
You can't tell it today.
Seemed to do all right, yeah.
Yeah, you look fine. What's your best memory of the war?
Oh, gosh.
It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad.
No, I know. A real good memory in the war for me was aboard ship. You had your fire controlman, you had your boatswain's mate's crew, and you had the deckhands, and you had the guys down in the engine room. They were all different parts of the ship and different units. And each unit, they sort of had a little hideaway place aboard ship, maybe a little cubby hole where they had special treats, like maybe they got some fruit, or maybe they had something to drink. And my memories, you know, I can remember going to those places with your buddies and just sort of relaxing. And because you were in the middle of the ocean and there was nothing around you but water, and so you had to have good friends.
So you were able to socialize just
a
little bit.
Oh, sure, yeah. And then, of course, when we crossed the equator, you know, you go across as a, I can't remember now, but you come out of Shellback. And that, you know, King Neptune's got his big old fat tummy, and you actually go through a procedure, and you're a pollywog. That's what they called you, was a pollywog. Then when you crossed the equator, you became a shellback. And so they went through a ritual, and you swam the deck like you were swimming in the ocean with a hose in your face. And they fed you all kind of stuff that was just, you know, not to hurt you, but just a mess. And
let me ask you, talking about swimming, I saw the Pearl Harbor movie, and I don't know how accurate it is. I mean, me looking at it, I thought it was a good movie.
Sure.
How accurate it is, I don't know. But there were people on some of the ships, some of the men, who could not swim. With the Navy, I picture the Navy at water. How can you go to the Navy and be on a boat and not know how to swim?
Very easily. Oh, sure.
Okay.
There was lots of guys aboard ship that couldn't swim. And, you know, who's going to swim out of that?
Well, let's hope not.
You're thousands of miles out with water all around you. Where are you going to swim?
I never thought of that.
Yeah,
I never
there's
thought
no
of
place.
that. But I guess in my mind I was thinking Navy, water.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you're used to looking at a swimming pool or a river or something like that.
That's true.
This is, you know, so much greater than that.
Yeah.
But if you were sunk out there, of course, where are you going to swim? There's no place.
If you were the best swimmer in the world,
You'd never make it.
You'd never make it. You're right. Okay, so can you describe the most significant event that you witnessed?
Yeah, I guess one of the most significant was I was in what they call the main battery director. That was my GQ station, which is General Quarter Station. Now, that's set right on top of the ship. It was right underneath the radar. And there was 3 of us in there. And you went through a little hatch, so you had to be a little guy, really. And I went in there, and we were battling on one of the islands. And I can remember it was a mound, like a little mountain, if you can picture that on an island, which isn't a very big hill if you're a West Virginian, you know. And coming up one side was our troops with tanks. They had a couple of tanks. And coming up the other side was the Japanese. And we were firing white phosphor shells. That was my job, to fire the big guns, the 5-inch guns. And a phosphor shell explodes over top of its intended victim. And it's like a powder, and it floats down. And we would fire those shells, and the wind was carrying it over on our troops. And I remember that the skipper called up, and I was the trigger man. And he said, continue firing, and I did refuse. And he said, you know, you'll be court-martialed. And I said, I can't help it, and told him what was happening. I said it was going over the troops. And I got out of it.
So you didn't get court-martialed?
No.
Okay.
But he was very, very upset with me until he knew the truth.
Sure.
That we were killing our own men.
Yeah. Do you remember where you were when the war ended?
Yes, off of Okinawa. Off of Okinawa, we had a big fleet going up there. And I remember we had a typhoon at Okinawa. And I was again asked to go up to the main battery director because we were rolling so badly that if you turned the antennas on the radar, they would have snapped off. So, and there was a hospital ship in the area, and they couldn't get a point on it. They didn't know where it was. So I went up and used the wheels, and as the ship would go up, why, I'd bring the radar down. As it went down, I'd bring it up, and finally they did get the hospital ship and where they were, and they got, so they changed the course of the hospital ship, and it was loaded with injured people.
Okay. Did you ever receive any awards or medals or anything that you'd like to mention?
No.
Okay. All right. So then, did you come back to Grafton immediately after you got out of the service?
We were in a big bunch of organization over there with the ships and everything. We were headed for Japan's where we were headed for until they dropped the atomic bomb. And I was over there when that happened, and I mean, in the ocean.
Now tell me about that.
Well, it was a big fleet going up there, you know. It was a convoy.
Okay.
And we were carrying a massive number of men.
How many people were on your ship alone?
Oh, gosh, we usually carried a complement of, I don't know, maybe 125.
Okay, so then you say you had a fleet of ships.
It was a fleet, yeah. It was a convoy, and a convoy is warships, and I don't know how many they were, because we only saw a portion of it.
Okay.
But we were heading for the invasion, and then President Truman dropped the atomic bomb, and they quit. It was over. And so we then got the word that we were going home. And we steamed back to the West Coast, went into San Diego, left San Diego, went through the Panama Canal, and come up the East Coast to New York. And we docked in New York. Some repairs had to be made. I came home on leave. I was supposed to have a 30-day leave. And I was here, I think, 6 days. And I got a telegram from the War Department. It said to report immediately back to the ship. And so that's what I did. I went immediately back to New York. So we took a skeleton crew, and we moved that destroyer from New York down to Charleston, South Carolina. And they took her in the harbor there. And they normally put about 4 ships together of the same class and same size. And that's where we decommissioned her. And of course I was in charge of putting all the gun sights and everything away and sealing them.
Now when you say decommissioned her, you mean put her away?
Put her out of service.
Shipped out, okay.
Put her out of service.
Now when you say put her out of service, where was she taken apart?
No.
You just, she's
No,
stored
she's
somewhere.
like if you would think of a picture of the land,
Okay.
and then you had 1, 2, 3, 4 destroyers tied up together.
Okay.
And what they did is they took a regular twine and they wrapped it over the big guns and over the 40 millimeters and over everything to be protected. And they made it like a spider web out of this cord, a constant bunch of cord. Then they sprayed that with a rubber spray and they sealed. That was totally sealed. And that's what they call decommissioning. And then
And it's still there today.
no, that ship
Okay.
is gone now. The ship I was on is gone now. They changed it into a sub chaser
Okay.
and put a little different paraphernalia on it, you know.
So after it had been decommissioned and covered with that netting
Yeah,
and rubber,
mhm.
they would have unsealed it one day and
They
went
did.
in and
Took her out and put her back in service. And we have a reunion about every year.
do you go?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And where is that reunion
Well,
held?
it could be anywhere. It's whoever's going to, like, if we go to the reunion, say, this year, then next year, at that reunion, somebody will say, I'll have the next one. Well, that might be down south, out west, or...
But the reunion, is it held on the boat? On
No,
the
no,
ship?
no,
No,
it's-
you hold it.
The ship no longer exists because they took her out and they used her for some of the new experimental bombs that they've got and shells, and they sunk her.
Okay.
They actually filled her full of ping pong balls and sunk her, and she was harder to sink. But yeah, they sunk her, and
How long ago has that been?
I think it's been about 8 years ago that they...
Now, when you have one of these reunions, are they reunions for people who were on that specific ship?
Yes. Yes.
How many people approximately show up?
Ooh, you'll probably have 125.
Really?
100. Oh, yeah.
Now, did you go to the last one?
No, I missed the last one.
Okay, where was it maybe the time before that when you did go?
I think it was out around Columbus.
Okay, so
I
how
believe it
long
was.
does this reunion last?
Lasts about 4 days. And,
Take your spouses? And
yeah. And,
you guys just kind of reminisce about old times?
Yes, we do. And in fact, the last one I was at, I was the only original person in World War II aboard that ship.
Really?
Yeah, I was the only one that was on her in World War II. Now, there could have been others that just couldn't make it.
Now, what about the other people who were there? Were they people who had been on that ship later?
Oh, sure.
When it had been
Sure.
changed?
Yeah, you see, that many people means that anybody that went to that ship, it means, if they were assigned to that ship for a month,
Okay.
they were a Cony crew.
Okay.
So that's where you get the volume of people.
Okay, and it could have been even. Did they change the name of her?
No.
Later, they did not.
Never
Because
changed it.
The Cony.
Yeah, the Cony.
C-O-N-Y.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yep. So we have those
Fascinating
reunions,
stuff.
and
Where-
they have a great time.
Where's the one this year?
I'm going to have to figure that one out.
You don't want to miss it.
I know.
You might be the
I think
only original
I
this
think it was
year.
in May.
Okay.
I think it was in May, and I didn't get there because, well, first of all, I had a new granddaughter, and
Now, do they have like a special program and things?
Well, what
like
they
that?
do, like if they go, let's say, pick a big town, I know the wife and I went to one. The Ark, the big old Ark out in, where is that? It's out in the high someplace.
Okay.
And, they, like, for instance, whatever sightseeing tours that they can line up, what they do is they send you a letter. We get a monthly letter, and they'll put in there what they want to do and the charges for each thing you want to do. And then usually on Saturday night or Sunday night, you have the big banquet. And
That's nice.
oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
Is great.
Yeah.
Great.
And you'll find that most of the seagoing people do that. If you ever look in the VFW magazine, and go back in it, you'll see a listing of all of those reunions, and you can see them.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a note of it. Today, are there things that happen around you, certain noises or odors or anything that remind you of wartime?
Oh yeah, sure.
What are some of those reminders?
One of the biggest reminders is we've got a color guard here.
Okay.
And all of those guys are, you never hear us talk about, I mean, I'm sort of reluctant to tell you a lot of stuff because we don't talk about it. But those fellows in the color guard, it was organized in '87. And I would say the biggest part of us in there are World War II. Of course, all the other branches are there also. But when you're with that group of guys, you feel like you can talk. And
We have something in common.
Sure.
And it's different talking with someone who knows
Yeah.
what you're talking about than someone who
So we're very dedicated, and we have buried 1,500 veterans since 1987, and we really didn't get going until about 1990. We chose a uniform and a Dickie work clothes, and we put all our insignias on it. And like tomorrow, now we have 2 funerals tomorrow, and the other day we had 3. And so it's and we go out of town, and we all dress alike, and we have the big M1 rifles. We do the 21 gun salute at every funeral. And so that's probably brings it back to you.
Gunshots.
Yeah, and different things, taps, and brings it back home more than going down to the club and sitting, because those guys really knew what went on and what happened, and it's...
So you guys do talk about it with each other?
Sure we do.
Okay.
And there's tears shed.
I imagine there would have to be. Yeah. I noticed when I came up on your porch, you have some red, white, and blue out there, as I noticed among some of the veterans, and I think that is so nice.
Yeah, we decorate, the wife and I do, and we're going to leave that there for the 4th of July, see.
Well, you have this big white house, and then with that red, white, and blue out there, it really looks nice.
Thank you.
I know my mother, she's funny, but we're always talking about, people hanging flags out and stuff, and I was saying, I don't think I want a flag. We're not talking about the American flag, just those flags in general. My mom says, if I was going to hang a flag out, it'll be the American flag. That's the only one I'd have hanging out there. So, we have a lot of patriotic people. But
West Virginians are, per capita in this state, we have more service people than any state in the nation.
Yeah.
We really do. And hillbillies, that Washington himself said, give me the boys in the Allegheny and I'll win.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But, speaking of World War II, I had, all of my mother's brothers, no, 3 of them. One was killed in a car wreck when he was young. But 3 of her 4 brothers were in World War II, and they're all gone now. And I would love to be able to sit down now and talk with them. Now, I do have one uncle who is married to my mom's sister. He's not Mom's brother, he's Mom's brother-in-law. And he was at Pearl Harbor during that.
Oh, boy.
So I'm wanting to talk with him. He's from West Virginia, from down around Birch River, but he lives in Ohio now. So I want to interview him, even if our organization doesn't do it, because they've got me strictly over here in Taylor County for now.
Sure.
And but I think it's something. But you know, the only thing, he's in his 80s, and the only thing I've ever heard him say about it was, I drive a Toyota car.
Oh.
And I was talking one day about how good the car is. I mean, I've had it, it's 11 years old now. I've got 190-some thousand miles on
Yeah.
it. Well, see, I'm a different generation.
Sure you are. Of course.
My aunt gets, her feathers are a little ruffled, and she says, yeah, but they're too expensive. And the only thing my uncle said was, well, you wouldn't feel that way if you were over there at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing he's ever said.
Yeah.
And
Normally,
I never even questioned it.
yeah,
know?
you're to be, you know, you really are lucky that you can talk to, and some will talk to you.
Yeah.
Because normally they don't.
No.
Mm-mm.
But that's the only thing that he has ever said. So,
Yeah.
but you're, and it's had to have been such a bad
Oh,
experience.
sure. You know, you go over there with all the Americanism you can think of, and of Ray and the glory, and get over and see devastation.
After I've talked to some of you guys and things, I think, here I am every day complaining about nothing. I mean, I have nothing to complain about. You know, I mean, when you compare it with people over here getting shot at and bombed and all this stuff, and they don't know from one minute to the next, and here I am complaining because my air conditioning's going out in my car today.
Sure.
And that's
Well,
nothing.
war is only one thing. It's either kill or be killed.
Yeah.
And that's what war is. And no matter how you cut the cake, that's what it means. And somebody's got to die.
Yeah.
And that's the story.
Yeah. Let's see here. You mentioned earlier you were a railroader.
Yeah.
How long were you a railroader?
45 years.
Here in Grafton.
Yes.
Started out with the B&O, and then the
Right on
was
with all
right
the
up
rest
to-
of them.
Okay.
CSX.
What did you do for the railroad?
I was in the clerical end of it. I was
Okay.
in the clerical. Wound up being a chief clerk and
Okay.
worked all over, all the different jobs. And
Okay. So you weren't? Were you on the train much, or?
no, not too much
were-
on the train.
Okay. Okay. Well, you mentioned the color guard. You mentioned earlier you have a little band.
Yeah, I got a trio.
What's that all about?
Well, we like to play the old stuff. We got together about 16 years ago.
Okay.
And, of course, I've been in orchestras for years. And we sort of clicked. And so I use a keyboard man. He plays double keyboard. And I've got a sax man that plays two saxes. And I play bass.
Great.
And vocal. And we just sort of clicked.
Now, when you say old music, from...
Oh, you're talking the Dorseys, the Harry Jameses.
Okay, great.
Yeah, clear back in the 40s. And
Okay, and did you mention you're playing where this weekend?
Flemington. We're going to Flemington this weekend. We're going to play their class reunion out there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then we're going to Morgantown and play another class reunion. Going to clear up to Davis and play one in July. And, of course, the fellas, you know, they... let's play some more, and I said I'm playing all I want to.
So these are class reunions that were maybe when back in the...
Oh, yeah, you're talking in the 50s.
Okay.
You know, something like that.
Great.
Earlier. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And we enjoy doing it, and, you know, I don't know, it's just something I love to do.
Okay.
Play.
Mr. Paugh, is there anything else I should ask you about Grafton, or...
Grafton's a good community. I wouldn't have stayed here. I've been out of the States. I've worked in Texas. I've worked in California, Lake Tahoe. You know, I've had different jobs, not for a long period of time, but I've been in all the states except Alaska. I have been in, to me, this state is all of the United States. West Virginia's got it all. I like it. And, yeah.
Well, you came home.
Sure did. Sure did.
Okay. All right. Anything about the military, maybe?
No, good memories and bad memories, and I'm a lucky one. I'm alive.
Okay. You appear to be alive and well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Oh,
thank you
sure.
for allowing me to come over.
It's
and
good
talk with
to
you.
good to have you, and you do a very good job with it.
Well, thank